So this is an odd video to be doing, I understand that, but I've decided to do it. This is more so just so I can compare the roster of Rise 1 to the roster of Rise 2 when Rise 2's roster gets finished, and later on I might actually do this with main series Forfats games like Blackmore 1, Blackmore 2, and Maximus 2. Who knows? Also, I guess M1 exists, but like, there's only 4 characters in that game. Anyway, so I'll put times in the comment section of where you can go to number 8, number 7, because there's 8 characters, yeah. Anyway, to start this off, we'll go to Rise's worst character, at least in my opinion. These are based on how often I'll play the character and how viable I think they are. My opinion, essentially. How fun I think the characters are. And bottom of the barrel is Anub'arak. Now, the obvious reason why Anub'arak is trash is because he doesn't have anything of value. You see, Anub'arak is a character who's slower than Woofius, with slightly more health, and does less damage than Zamba. He has this jump attack thing that Rogul just has a better version of, and he has this projectile thing that both Monty and Pan have better versions of. Also, his jump attack can't even kill a Gruntus in one hit. I feel like it's undoubtable that Anub'arak is the worst Rise character in the sense that he brings nothing to the table. I don't think he's the least viable Rise character. I think there are characters who are way harder to play as than Anub'arak, but I think the issue with Anub'arak is that I'd still rather play those characters because they bring more to the table and are more unique. So by default, I think he's the worst. Next would be probably Crablanti and Juggernaut. Now, the main issue with Juggernaut is that he is slow beyond belief. He's not the slowest character, I think he's 3rd, but everything about him is slow. He moves slow, his attacks are slow, and neither of his skills are really that useful. Like, this shell move takes forever. By the time it comes back to you, you could have hit the enemies twice anyway. So the fact that it comes back isn't really useful. The slam attack is useful though, it's just that it takes a while and other characters have better versions of it, like Monty. I think Juggernaut can be a good character, but he has a learning curve. But the issue is, you unlock him at the end of Endless Mode when you reach Wave 20. Not the end of Endless Mode, but you know what I mean. Wave 20 of Endless Mode is when you unlock him. And by that point, you've already beaten the game. You've already gotten to Wave 20 in Endless Mode. So, you're already pretty good at the game. You don't really need to spend the time learning a new character if you've already gotten good enough at the character you used to unlock Juggernaut in the first place. So, inherently, you'll be better at that character. So I don't really think the learning curve argument works for Juggernaut. Now, moving on to number 6 on the ranking would be Pan. Now, Pan is the least viable character, I think. Pan has this issue where he doesn't play like any other character, and he doesn't do much damage. He is one of the faster characters, but he has the least amount of health, and he doesn't really play like a Rise character should. That's the issue with Pan. Normally, you're going to be going in with a Rise. You're going to be going in and attacking once your skills are charged, and then backing off and running around trying to not die. That's how Rise generally plays. While it's not how either of the Maximus games really play, it is how Rise works. You just kind of avoid the enemies for a while until you can go in and attack. With Pan, you're supposed to be at a distance the whole time. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but still, he just goes against everything that Rise is by existing. You're supposed to get as far away from the enemy as possible and then just spam arrows or your magic. And the knife skill that he has isn't terrible or anything, it's just not great. It kind of is terrible, actually. The only reason he's above Juggernaut and Anub'arak is because he brings something to the table. He's very unique. He is easily the most unique character in the game. So he kind of gets points for that by default. Next on the list would be Zamba. Now, Zamba, by default, is the Rise 1 character with the most depth. He has a combo, a 3-hit combo, which no other Rise 1 character has. You hold in the button, he'll do all 3 parts of the combo. He can block at the cost of not having a K button skill, and the block heals him over time. So by default, he's the most in-depth character, but I don't really think that matters too much. He's kind of the most basic character in the game, even though he has easily the weirdest skill in the game with that block thing going on. The Skull Spin attack is good and all, but his basic is just whatever. He has a whatever amount of health, he has a whatever amount of speed. He's just not that interesting to play as, honestly. And I don't think he's terrible or anything. I put him at number 5 on the ranking, after all, but he's just not very interesting. He's definitely more interesting than a new Brock. And I definitely think he's more viable than every other character on the list so far. I think he's more viable than some of the later characters on the list, honestly. But he just doesn't have anything interesting on the table. He's not garbage enough in terms of moveset to be lower on the list, but he's not interesting enough to be higher on the list. He's definitely one of the more viable characters, but he's just whatever. Anyway, next at number 4, we have Rogul. Now, Rogul is weird, to say the least. So his basic attack, he only has the one, like most characters, hits an enemy twice usually because of how it works. So that by default gives him one of the better basics. His jump is a better version of a new Brock's jump. He has a good amount of speed, he has a good amount of health, nothing crazy. And his K button skill allows you to kill yourself. Which is fun. It's hilarious. Honestly, it shouldn't do that. It wouldn't be broken if I removed the fact that it damaged you over time. So I might actually go back and do that at some point. But it's just, Rogul is just Zamba, but the basic's better, essentially. And the jump is better than Zamba's skull roll thing. So yeah, that's essentially just what Rogul is. He's just Zamba, but better. So it's not interesting, really. Anyway, next is Ghostface on the ranking, and Ghostface is essentially just like Rogul's better Zamba. Ghostface is just better Juggernaut. Now, if we go in, you can see a similar concept with the basic. Does more damage and knocks enemies back, like Juggernauts did. But unlike Juggernaut, Ghostface has a mobility skill that allows her to go faster. She may be the slowest character in the game, but that is definitely an advantage. And the Ice AoE is definitely better than Jugger's, shield thing, as that's what the skill buttons map to is JK. So it's definitely better than the shield throw thing. The issue with Ghostface is that she is the slowest character. And while technically you can move fast with the slide, it's the fact that you don't have as much control as other characters that limits her from being higher on the list. You don't have that much control with Ghostface. The slide just goes in the same arc every time, and if you're holding up or down, it goes diagonally, sure, but you still don't have that much control when it's happening, even though it is relatively fast. And the Ice AoE is pretty good and all, but it becomes worthless on bosses since they don't get trapped in it. That leaves us with 2 left, which, if you've been paying attention, would be the 2 characters I brought back for Rise 2. That's a coincidence, but it's the case. Number 2 is Monty. Now, Monty is essentially the game's easy mode. So he has the basic that can stagger and kills Zavukis in 2 hits. He has the Slam, which knocks enemies back. And, of course, the Bomb. Probably the most disgusting attack in the game. Monty has the most health of any playable, and I'm pretty sure he moves the 2nd slowest. He moves at basically the same speed as Jugger, but I think Jugger's is 0.5 higher. It's really the Bomb. It's really the Bomb. I don't think the Bomb is his best skill or anything, but it's the fact that he has it. It's the fact that he has the Bomb on top of the Slam and the basic. He just has a moveset that just dishes out damage, and if you're waiting for your Slam to recharge, you can just spam bombs. Anyway, now we move on to the best Rise character, which is Woofius. The best Rise character is Woofius. I know CK would probably disagree with me on that. He's said multiple times in the past that he can't play Woofius, but whatever. The deal with Woofius, fastest basic, fastest character, period. The spin doesn't knock enemies back, but it does hit them, and it hits them more than once, and you can move while doing it. And the jab move only takes slightly longer than your basic, but does knock enemies back. So instead of having his longer skill knock enemies back, it's his primary skill that knocks enemies back. And the spin doesn't, meaning it can hit them multiple times, which is kind of busted. It's really that jab. That jab is a secondary move, is a primary skill that can knock enemies back. Other than Monty's bomb, I don't think there's any skill that can do that. Let's see, I can't think of any. Other than, I think Ghostface Slide might. But still, it's that move. It doesn't take long to recharge, and you can just use it before or after your basic attack, and just decimate enemies with it. Also, the fact that he's the fastest character, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't. I'm pretty sure Pawn has significantly less health than him as well. So yeah, I just think Wolfius is generally the best character because he embodies what Rise is. You're supposed to use up your skills, get the frick away, and then go back in for the attack after a while. That's how Rise combat works, essentially. And Wolfius, being the fastest character, embodies that the most, which I think makes him the best by default. In terms of Rise 2, I feel like this ranking doesn't apply anymore. I don't think Monty is the second best character in Rise 2. I still think Wolfius is the best in Rise 2, but really there's only 3 Rise 2 characters right now. And Welmer's the only new one, so yeah.